We've started a series on Seller Die called Profiles in Sales Courage. It's all about brave salespeople who struggle and fight. They've risked it all in pursuit of their sales dreams.
Ooh.
We've told you the story of Pamela Barsky, who lost her business in an earthquake. So she decided to move to New York City and conquer her retail space.
With little tiny bags.
Oh, yeah. In a
that sell for
100
$20
square foot factory.
And she's selling zillions of them.
It's amazing.
Yep. We also heard the story of Mike Brown, my buddy, the founder of Death Wish Coffee, who almost ended up homeless, but instead bunked in with his mom, landed a Super Bowl commercial, sold 250,000 pounds of coffee, and has an amazingly successful business and a sponsorship.
So today we're continuing that series with our next guest who's joining us live here in our Charlotte studio. She may be doing the most courageous thing so far. She drives the number 54 Toyota Racing Camry in NASCAR's K & Pro Series West. She's Julia Landauer. Welcome, Julia. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. This is quite special to be able to do this in my new hometown.
We're glad you're here.
Yeah. All drivers live in Charlotte, don't they?
A lot of them do, and that's because NASCAR's headquarters are here, and a lot of the teams are located here. So if a driver wants to go to the shop, they can easily access that.
You know, in Troutman, North Carolina, you could take on the sponsorship of Julia's Tally House.
Oh, I'll have to go pay them a visit, right? Got to get some of that
Exactly.
sponsorship.
Best baked apple and best fried chicken on the planet.
What more could you want?
Near Mooresville.
So do you eat the chicken first or after?
You kind of eat them together.
As one does.
Yeah, exactly. I want you to understand in the audience, if you're listening to this interview, you're thinking, she's a chick. What's she doing? Selling. She's a driver. No. She is responsible for selling millions of dollars worth of sponsorships. If she doesn't win, they don't sell. If she wins, they have a potential of selling.
Yeah, but I don't think a lot of people associate race car driving and sponsorships. I didn't until we met. So what would you say to that?
Yeah, so racing is a really interesting sport because it's half talent and skill and the sport itself, and it's half business. Unlike every other sport, you have to, as a driver or the team, have to sell millions of dollars of sponsorship to make it to the top. Mm-hmm. And so if a driver doesn't come from, a trust fund or really deep pockets, it's up to him or her to really create a brand and provide value to a company, be able to articulate that, and then get people behind their mission and then perform on the track to be able to keep
exactly.
it.
Win a race or two.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's tough, and a lot of people will hire people to help them do it, but at the end of the day, I am my best salesperson. I've always thought I convey the passion and the energy and the brand best, and so we've had some pretty good success so far, and it's only going to keep getting better.
But you're a young lady.
Great.
How many years could you have possibly been driving?
Yeah, so I'm 24 years old, but I started go-karts when I was 10, and it was something me and my sister did together because my parents wanted us to compete head-to-head against boys. They wanted us to be tough. So
cool.
Did that, yeah, and then I started racing cars when I was 13. So I've been doing cars for 11 years now, and so it's really become my whole life in terms of trying to make it.
Okay,
Wow.
So the one question I want to know, what's the fastest you've ever gone?
I've gone 160 on a road course, and so it's left and right turns, but we went 160, and you have to go down to first gear, which is way slower, and so you just feel the G-forces as you hit the brakes and then come to a stop.
Wow. That's pretty fast, 160. What is the standard NASCAR driver? What do they hit when they hit the straightaway?
So the NASCAR drivers at the top level, when you're racing on tracks as high as 2.5 miles, they will hit 200 miles an hour.
Wow.
On my series, which is basically the minor leagues of NASCAR, races on smaller racetracks, but we'll hit 150 or so.
Are you afraid?
Yeah, that's
Cool.
a great question. That's a great question. Yeah, I'm definitely scared.
When I do 40.
I'm definitely scared, and there's a whole lot of the industry that is scary, and I'm actually putting together a public talk about that. But it's the thrill and the excitement of conquering it is way more powerful than the fear.
Your
but the fear keeps you on edge.
You have a book title, Scared Shitless.
There we go. Bestseller. There we go.
Okay, wait. So your parents get you to this go-karting thing. You're going head-to-head with boys or whatever. Mm-hmm. How do you transfer that into, I'm going to be a race car driver?
Yeah, so when I was 12, it was totally an emotional decision. I loved it. I was always happiest when I was at the racetrack. I was proudest of myself when I was winning and, working hard, communicating well with the team, being able to perform on the racetrack, interacting with the fans. It's all so intoxicating, and it puts you on this high, which once you catch that, it's hard to let it go. So.
No, you're 12.
She's interacting with the fans at 12. I love that.
First of all, it's before the iPhone.
Yeah,
it's before any kind of computer made any kind of headway.
Yeah.
So you're out there as a woman or a young lady, and you're trying to A, win, and then B, go to the next thing.
Yeah, exactly. And it's this constant growth and constantly figuring out, okay, what do I have to do now to prepare for the next step? How fit do I have to be now to be able to get into the next one? How much money do I have to raise this year to be able to go racing
And
next
were your
year?
parents supportive the whole time?
Yeah, my parents have been super supportive, and I'm very lucky. I understand not everyone has that, but they've also held me to a high standard with great responsibility, and that's part of why I did my first sales pitch for sponsorship when I was 15, and so you learn a lot of lessons that first time out, but it's been really cool.
So there's one thing that people associate with racing, and that is the checkered flag.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And when did you take your first? I'm sure you remember that, right?
Yeah, I mean, my first win was when I was 11 in go-karts at our local go-kart track in upstate New York, and that's one you never forget. But probably the most powerful win was my first car win when I was 14. I won the first race of the season in the Skip Barber Racing Series, and then went on to win the championship. So getting that first checker flag was so exceptional. And then my first NASCAR win, which was the beginning of the 2015 season, we went out. I hadn't raced full time since I had started college, and we go out there and qualified third, and all of a sudden I was in the lead, and it was like, oh boy, I can taste it. We got this. And then I got the first win, and it was like, wow, this is the season. We're gonna get it. So it was cool.
Okay, tell us about your first sale.
Okay, well, my first unsuccessful sale was with
That's how it starts, baby.
Yeah. So when I was 15, and it was right after middle school, and Betsy Johnson, the dress company, was one that I just really liked. And so I thought, I really like these dresses. I'm sure they would want to sponsor me because I like wearing their clothing. So I put together a Word document.
Wait, time out. That's ballsy.
Oh, yeah. And this is where my parents clearly let me learn the hard way, but I told my parents that I was going to do that, and on one afternoon after I had printed out my proposal and put some pictures in it and put it together in a packet, my dad and I walked down to the Betsy Johnson headquarters. I went up to the receptionist and I was like, hello, can you please give this to Betsy Johnson? And she was like, okay. And that was it. And I walked away. I was like, all right, here we go. I'll expect a call in the next week or two. I'm sure it never left that secretary's desk, but my dad let me do that. And then we debriefed, and then he explained some things as to why it probably didn't work.
Like Betty Crocker, there is no Betsy Johnson.
Yeah, maybe like that. Although we do see her do cartwheels down the runway. But she probably doesn't make... They probably don't sponsor NASCAR drivers. Yeah. Anyway, so that was really cool. But then the first sale that was really successful actually didn't happen until 2015. I mean, there was that many years of... so that's almost 9 years. And so part of it was that, my family had some funding to be able to go racing, and we got in sponsorships, not through my selling, but through a team selling or other things like that. And so I was able to attract the attention of someone who graduated from my high school and had a software engineering company. And, it was through a crowdfunding campaign, but I still had to convince him why he should give me, thousands of dollars to go racing. And we had a couple phone conversations, and he contributed, and it was just really successful because, again, people have been contributing, $10 to $100 or something. So to get someone to really give the biggest amount was really cool, and it was inspiring. We got to put his logo over the front of the car.
Love that.
Yeah, exactly. And so it was just really cool, and to be able to show. And then he got to go to his employees and say, "Hey, we're on a NASCAR car. Like, this is really cool." And we, offered, a high touch employee engagement of doing a go-karting day. And so that kind of providing value in non-traditional ways was really cool to be able to figure out and then convey to them and get them excited by it.
That's incredible. Did you know him, or were you just able to establish rapport more quickly because you went to the same high school?
Yeah, I didn't know him, but I think once you're part of Stuyvesant High School for math and science in New York, it's a pretty geeky, nerdy, but powerful public school. You have this reputation. You're all part of the family.
Yeah. Very
so
cool.
We haven't talked about this yet, but as a demure young lady, you were on Survivor.
Yeah. All part of that brand development, right? Help with sales. So when I was a sophomore at Stanford, I got the opportunity to apply for Survivor. I was like, how can I give this up? Like, I definitely want to try it out. A lot of the women who had been successful were total badasses and, super tough and strong. Mm-hmm. And so went through the application process.
By the way, you're the skinniest badass I think I've ever seen in my life.
Maybe skinny, but I'm strong. Actually, sidetrack, I got my genes analyzed, and I found out that I'm not likely to put on like big, bulky muscle, but the muscle I do put on is going to be exceptionally strong. So I guess it's more efficient, right?
Cool. Oh, that's great.
Yeah, super interesting. So I'm not going to get frustrated anymore when I'm in the gym for an hour a day and not seeing any big difference. But so I went on Survivor, and it was so tough. I was able to incorporate some of the stuff I knew from racing, but it also taught me a lot. Perseverance was the big one, which definitely helps in every walk of life. Mm-hmm. And I learned that sunscreen's really important. Yeah, sunscreen's super important, though. Never, ever go out without sunscreen. I got a second-degree burn on my face, so
whoa.
Yeah. But it all healed.
You look fine now.
Thank you.
So, what's next?
So what's next is that we've now completed almost half the season in the K&N West Series, and so I'm sponsored by Toyota and Napa Filters, which is really exciting.
Yeah.
And Toyota
Did you talk to them?
So how do you get that sponsorship?
Yeah.
What's that like?
So that sponsorship was interesting. They had a relationship with the team I drive for, Bill McAnally Racing, and Bill's a great guy, and so he said, Toyota's interested in sponsoring you. Do you want to come out and test for them? I did. They signed on, and now so I've been developing that relationship with Toyota specifically and talk with them, and, looking ahead to next year, we're not sure yet, but ideally we would race the East Coast version of the K&N series. Right now I'm on the West Coast, but it's really exciting. We're looking, becoming very brand conscious, and back in May I was selected for the NASCAR Next program, which is a really exclusive program where NASCAR executives, their drivers council, and different media outlets nominate drivers to be part of this program. So there were 11 drivers selected. I was the only female, and it's a very public statement that NASCAR supports us and they expect us to be future stars of the sport. So with that, we've been able to go to a lot of outlets, a lot of PR areas, and just really push the brand, the New York City educated, competent, women empowerment, STEM advocate brand that I have, and that's how we're kind of narrowing down our outreach for sponsorship for the coming years.
But be certain of this. When you say that NASCAR supports us or that Toyota supports us, it's you.
Right.
It's your skill.
Sorry, yes, it's me. I've gotten used to the
team.
plural
Yeah,
team
exactly.
aspect. Yeah, but NASCAR is supporting me as a driver.
Exactly. If
And
you
it's-
sucked, you'd be in.
I wouldn't be
They
there,
would
right?
not have
They would
chosen
not
her.
be supporting me.
Oh, I missed it by one
Exactly.
again.
Yeah,
Exactly.
no. So last year was a really great year with the championship. It showed that it was my first full season out of college, and so to show that I've still got it was really cool. And
What do you mean still got it? You're like a kid.
Racing
you don't lose
so
it till you're like
young.
42.
Racing is so young. I'm competing against 16 and 17-year-olds. And
Seriously?
At 24, I'm getting up there. So.
Yeah, I can tell that.
So Jeffrey, you
As I
must.
said to my 25-year-old underwear.
That's awesome.
Oh man! All right. So when we had lunch a few weeks back, you were talking about your speaking career. How did you get that off the ground?
Yeah, so originally when I started college, I knew that I could be a role model for people, and especially girls. And so I started off by just volunteering my time to go speak with girls' camps, girls' science camps in the Bay Area, and just started that way and really enjoyed it. And I felt that I got a lot from it. But then when I was a senior, I was asked to do a Stanford TEDx discussion. Whoa. And so I was like, whoa, okay, they think I have something cool to say. So I put together a talk it was an 8-minute talk, like a TEDx. I finished somewhere at the back, and I get off the racetrack and was the most pissed off 11-year-old that you will ever see. I pushed my go-kart up to this pit and dropped all my stuff off and ran up to my parents and said, "You messed up the go-kart. It would have been so much better if you had done this, and I could have won." And then my dad looked at me, and I realized I had messed up. And he walked up to me, and he said, "F*** you." And so it was talking about stereotypes against women that we can fight. Can
our listeners find this online?
Oh, yeah. If you go to YouTube and search "Can Nice Girls Win Races," you'll find it. And it's a lot of fun. And so once I did that, I was like, wow, I can make an audience laugh. That is really cool. And I had a lot of fun and got the adrenaline rush, similar to racing. And so then that's a different kind of sale. I started pitching myself that way. And I started, my first paid speaking gig was to an all-girls school in New York and motivating their high school and middle school students. And I was like, wow, I can get paid to get people to laugh.
Exactly.
This is so cool.
You should be speaking at graduations.
That's what I would love to do. And I've spoken at some universities and various associations, and so it's something that I push pretty heavily. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm developing more of a talk around fear. So I've had some tips for success and more women's focused talks, but this idea of fear is so interesting because everyone's scared of something. And so being able to harness it and really use it to your advantage is so empowering. So to be able to kind of work on that, it's a work in progress still, but I'm really excited for it.
So let's make a deal here on the air. We will be your speech coach in exchange for just a minor sponsorship thing, like put us by the doorknob.
All right, we can talk about that. You bet. You bet.
Jeffrey will also take 3 laps around Bristol.
Yeah, no, let me tell you
Ballsy.
something. I did the Richard Petty experience in Daytona.
Oh boy, that's a big track.
Is there video of this?
I don't know. I don't
I
think
wanna
so.
see
I don't
that.
think so. Let me
For
tell you
real.
what. The first lap, and we've talked about this briefly. Some guy gets in the car. He's not like it wasn't like Richard Petty, rest his soul, but it wasn't Jeff Gordon. It was just some guy, and all of a sudden he's driving 160 miles an hour down the straightaway, and we bank this turn, and I feel like I'm going to. And my stomach is like literally like just inching up my throat, and you can feel the G forces. You're in a suit, you're strapped in, you can hardly move, and I wasn't peeing in my pants, but I was real close.
I'm glad you lived to tell that.
If you make you feel better, I have peed in my pants in the car. So.
Oh, cool. Well, there you go.
You wouldn't be the first.
Misconfession.
I feel like that might be a common thing.
Yeah, it can't be uncomfortable.
So
wow.
By the second lap, I was actually almost comfortable, and the guy looked at me as we're going into the third lap, and he's like, gives me the "Are you okay?" signal. I went like this.
What does that mean?
Which I like.
Pedal
put your hand
to the
down.
floor.
Like, put the pedal down, bub. I want to feel what it really feels like. And let me tell you what, he burnt it. And
I bet.
When we banked, and I'm like leaning out the window, but I figured this was it. I'm not going to the Richard Petty experience.
I was just going to ask, are you going to do it again?
No. They haul your ass out of the car. They like pull you out of the window.
I'll be honest, I wouldn't want to be a passenger in one of those things.
There's a difference between having the control and driving the car and then sitting back and hoping you're going to live.
Yeah, I know. It's tough. And I'm glad you probably didn't know this while you were out there, but when you're right side, you're way closer to the wall if something goes wrong.
Yeah.
Not to scare all the listeners, but that's something that as a driver, I was like, ooh, I'm not sure I could do that. But
it was an experience.
Yeah.
And they call it the Richard Petty experience. I went with a group of people. There was probably 50 people that went around the track that day, and they kept like voom, voom, voom. I wanted to get first. I wanted to be like, so I was like one of the first 3 or 4 people to do it. I wanted it to be out of the way. I didn't want the guy to have fatigue or whatever the deal was. I wanted him fresh, and it was fun. It really was fun. But when it's done, oh boy, are you happy.
Oh yeah. That's a lot on your body too. I think people don't understand how physical it is and what the G-forces are like, what the heat's like. You know, the motor's right there, so it can be 130 degrees in the car. So, I mean, you got to be fit to do it for a while, for sure.
I can only imagine.
So you're gonna go give more speeches this year? Will you be speaking more?
Yeah, we got a couple lined up for the fall. During the season's a little harder just because my travel schedule's so wacky. But
do you have an agent?
I do have an agent. I work with an agent. I also have my manager, and so I'm getting all kind of fancy, big time here.
This is amazing.
Yeah. So and it's a slow takeoff, but it's getting there, and it's really cool, and it's it's sustainable, so that's exciting.
Have you found parallels in crafting a good speech and in driving?
Oh yeah, it's super interesting, right? So with a talk, I have found when I've listened to other speakers that I lose a speaker if their transitions aren't good, if they just kind of jump from point to point. And so this idea of the transitions and hitting your marks and having this smooth transition from point to point, it's the same thing on a racetrack. You can't be abrupt. You need to kind of go. So in terms of a flow, there's that. And then preparation. I mean, I'm sure you guys know when you practice a talk, it's over and over and over again. It's hours a day. You're giving like a 45-minute talk or an hour or something. You just got to dedicate that time.
When I gave my first talk, I was surprised how much I actually needed to prepare to do a really good job. So for a 2-hour talk, I may have prepped 20 hours behind the scenes.
I mean, my 8-minute talk for TEDx had weeks of preparation. I probably wasn't the most efficient back then, but I mean, it was so many hours.
Did you get the jitters?
Yeah, you get the butterflies. If I don't, same with racing, if I don't have butterflies right before I go out, I'm not on edge enough. I'm not there mentally. So that's a very good indicator for me that I'm ready to go.
That you're ready.
That's interesting. I think, though, that as your speaking career evolves and you come up with, Julia's juice for your talk, and you'll have like 10 things that men do that women should be doing, 10 things that women do that men just stay the hell out of it. And then there's got to be a couple girly things in there that you have to, no matter what, you got to look good.
Yeah. Oh, I know. It's a fascinating thing. It's interesting being a racer also. Like, you see all the guys who, like, they just kind of show up at the track, and there are different expectations for women. So, like, in terms of appearance, and they're asking me, can I do stuff with my hair? And I get out of the car, and it's like I just showered. I mean, there's so much sweat, and you're in a helmet. It's like, what do you want me to do? So, trying to find that balance. But
do they interview you while you're drinking milk and stuff?
They definitely interview me afterwards, and I look like any athlete who just got done with a competition, sweaty and red and a little wired because you're still digesting everything.
Wow.
So have you developed your own sales tips for yourself that you want to share with some of the people that are?
Yeah, definitely. There are a couple of things. Authenticity, not giving a potential, a sale recipient what they want to hear, but really kind of being really true as to what you offer, how you can offer it. I think the ability to have a discussion and negotiate is really good. I have found that when I go to potential sponsors, we give the price point that's our start off point, and a lot of times that'll scare people. And so really saying, okay, we can, if you want to work together, we can make this work. So this back and forth, which works for me. It may not work for everyone in sales, but it works for me. And then being persistent. I mean, there are some people who I really want to get in touch with, and if I don't have a connection to them, like I'll email them once, and if they don't respond, I'll email again, and then I'll call and like make sure they really don't want to talk to me before I give up.
I love that. That's great.
No shame. That's a huge part. I'm sure you guys know that. That's the other thing. Just like in general in life, no time for shame.
I don't know. I've been shamed a lot when I was a kid.
So no shame, persistence, and authenticity.
Yeah, I think that's a great way. Yeah.
Cool. All right, Julia, thanks again for joining us. You can learn more about Julia at her website, Julia Landauer. That's LANDAUER.com, and follow her on Twitter at Julia Landauer.